We are live back
Oh,
with another episode of your wildest fantasy football show, our start sit live stream Q&A, however you want to phrase it, whatever you want to call it. We are here for the next hour giving you guys our feedback on who you should play that today,
right.
what you should do in any of your questions that you're looking for our advice in. We will try to give you the best advice we have. Is that good advice? Is that bad advice? We cannot guarantee either of
Right.
those two things. We can just try to give you our advice and see where we can help, how we can help, and try our best. And that's really what this show's about.
Exactly. We're here for you guys, for the people, we the people. John 3:16. So
Sure. John said that. We need your help to be able to help you, though. Let me help you. Let me help you by helping me. And to do that, we need your guys' questions. So, as always, whatever questions you guys have, whether that is a start sit question, whether that is something going forward for future weeks, for this week and next week,
mhm.
anything doesn't even have to apply to fantasy football. Just submit your questions to the chat and we will get to them as they come in.
Absolutely.
First things first, I have to, unfortunately for Cody, repeat a slide and a topic that we covered last week, but it just doesn't seem to be going away. The Colts keep winning on Saturdays. And if you didn't know, in the wild card, I have to do some research to see
Mhm.
whether we at this point would be playing on a Saturday or Sunday, but we are undefeated on Saturdays.
I think I have to give it to you on that one. You might be undefeated on Saturday so far.
And I'm not sure. I mean, other teams may be undefeated on Saturdays. I don't think anyone else is 2-0 on Saturdays. So that's an NFL league leading 2-0 on Saturdays. Let me actually change this slide quickly because we might be the best team in football. But if you look at it from a pure Saturday perspective, the Colts are the best team in football on Saturdays.
If I think I have to agree with you. On Saturday, Colts seem to be undefeated, quite literally. It kind of happens when Arizona doesn't play any starters. Purposely sitting DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, he could play through the injury if they wanted to. But, I guess on Saturdays, the league just got together and said Colts are going to be the best team on football. Everyone loves an underdog story. So who better to be an underdog than the Colts, who have been underdogs their whole life?
Well, it's interesting you say that about DeAndre Hopkins because the Colts did have 8 starters out as of yesterday.
They had 8 starters, but it was
which
the
is tough
kicker,
to overcome.
the punter, the second punter, the third kicker. I mean, it was like really just a lot of kicking.
Both of the special teams guys were there, unfortunately.
No, that cannot be. That doesn't seem like it's accurate.
Darius Leonard out, 4 out of 5 offensive linemen out, 3 entering the game, 1 early in the game. I was very surprised, to be honest. We talked about this on the show that I'm a very, I would say, like, scared fan. I come into the season just expecting the worst and kind of like talking as if the worst is going to happen, just so if it does, I'm prepared mentally.
Right.
But this season is weird. I mean, we normally, even when we're playing well, will still fall to those good teams. And we've beaten a lot of good teams this year. And it's certainly exciting in Colts land, even though we still seem to not have a chance at the division with the Jags schedule coming up and our schedule coming up and COVID swirling around the building. So just a quick topic that we had to cover. Colts might be the best team in football, but they're definitely the best team in football on Saturdays.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers, really support Colts on Sunday or Saturday. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. As for actual fantasy news, some big names out: Travis Kelce, Austin Eckler, Dalvin Cook, all out due to the COVID protocols. Big names that need to be replaced. A lot easier on the Dalvin side of things, but Eckler and Travis Kelce is where it starts to get dicey. You obviously hope that you have Justin Jackson in the case of Austin Eckler, but if you have Austin Eckler, it's likely that you are a pretty successful team that in the waiver discussion didn't have one of the top picks to go out and get Justin Jackson. I don't really know. Are there any last minute waiver guys that you can go out and get to try to fill Eckler's spot? Maybe not at running back, but just in general.
I don't think so. I mean, Austin Eckler, huge numbers for him so far in the year. And looking through waivers, I don't see a lot of people out here who I feel super confident are going to have a great week. I mean, Sexy Rexy's out here in a lot of leagues. But I don't think Sexy Rexy is going to compare to Austin Eckler in terms of the numbers. I don't know. I don't really think there's a whole lot of running backs you can really go out and get who are going to have the upside of them. Hopefully you have a second run or a third running back, and you just have a couple good wide receivers that you can just throw in there in place of them.
Agree. That's what it's going to come down to. Maybe a guy that I just saw is going to be active today. Kadarius Toney is probably out there in a lot of leagues where he may be able to be a high risk, high reward player. But I think at this point on waivers, or in free agency, that's what you're going to get. Hopefully you're not relying on free agency to find your replacement for any of these guys if you are in a spot to try to win. Although tight end is probably the easiest spot to find a last minute replacement.
Right. I mean, there's Foster Moreau, Jared Cook, Tyler Conklin. A lot of these guys are out there in a lot of leagues. So, I mean, tight end is probably the best position to find a replacement for. Austin Eckler, Dalvin Cook. If you don't have their immediate backups and handcuffs, you're not really going to get any good replacement value.
Agreed. Are there any specific tight ends that you would look at?
I mean, Tyler Conklin, Dalvin Cook out, Adam Thielen out, Alexander Madison's a boss. I mean, don't get me wrong, but we're playing the Rams, so Rams have a high explosive offense. I think it's going to be a pretty good game for Justin Jefferson for sure. I think Tyler Conklin's going to get some of that underneath work, and that could really bolster him. Maybe even get a touchdown because I do think it's going to be a high scoring affair today.
Yeah, I do like Tyler Conklin as always. I actually have him starting in place of Darren Waller in one of my leagues. Darren Waller has been maybe one of the worst trades I've ever made in my life. Turns out, didn't expect that when I was trading for Darren Waller. Anyway, that's more of a personal problem than anything. I would like to see if Dan Arnold is activated, because if he is not,
Dan the man,
then it's James O'Shaughnessy, obviously, back into the swing of things. As always, had the most fantasy points that he's had so far. At what was it? It was 10, I want to say. Yeah. So 4 catches for 60 yards last week. He's got, that was actually his least targeted game out of the full games that he's played this season. 5 targets, 6 targets, 6 targets, 4 targets. So if you're looking for just like a floor play, James O'Shaughnessy could be that against the Jets today. We've talked about it pretty extensively. You have said it many times on the show. Everyone plays decent against the Jets.
Everyone plays fantastic against the Jets, i.e. Alvin Kamara. Play the Jets, nice game. Played a decent team, decent defense. I think they're outside the top 10 in terms of stopping our fantasy points to the running back right now. So, easy game for them. got 5 points. So, no shade to second take extra in his Jets. But in order for me to be the most honest, upfront, and helpful co-host I can be, I just have to, break the hard truth sometimes.
Sure. Other news as far as, quarterbacks, and then maybe this whole Baltimore Cincinnati game in general. Lamar Jackson, ankle, and Tyler Huntley, who just got put on the COVID list yesterday, I believe, if not Friday, are out for today's game, making, I'd say, this whole Baltimore offense fairly compromised. Josh Johnson actually played well in his one game with the Jets against the Colts, but I'm not sure how much confidence I really have in him. Like, I think it definitely forces you to take a second look at a lot of the guys that you were starting in Baltimore. Obviously, you're starting Mark Andrews. I'm downgrading Marquise Brown.
Yeah.
But I still have him as a wide receiver too. He's actually at 17 on my wide receivers list for the week. So I would say more of a downgrade than you're sitting anybody besides maybe like Devontae Freeman, who I have outside of my top 24. Again, this list only includes the guys that are playing today as well. So,
right. Yeah, I mean, I am in a position where I need Marquise Brown to really perform. So this news, not ideal. One for obviously Lamar and Tyler Huntley, who are injured and sick, but also probably more importantly, really, is me in my hopes of keeping my fantasy season alive. So, I mean, I'm praying. I'm really praying here that Josh Johnson, he kind of has the same name front and back here. Looks pretty cool. So I'm really hoping that he just throws to Marquise Brown because his name's kind of the same front and back. Marquise is, I believe, short for Brown, and Brown is the long version of Marquise. So, really just a lot of connection out there, really hoping that they can just thrive and drive on it here. I mean, they're playing Cincinnati too, so they're going to be behind, just simple fact. Baltimore's defense is not the scariest in the league, and Cincinnati has been playing decently well. They have been moving the ball around, which I think is good. But without Lamar and Tyler Huntley, you're not. I mean, third string quarterback back there is not the scariest option to have.
also, Baltimore's defense is half out, I believe, still. Yeah, they still have a lot of guys on the COVID list as well. So I think this sets up for a pretty decent Joe Mixon game.
Yep.
We'll see how much they actually rely on him coming off of dealing with some injury problems himself. But definitely sets up for a decent run game. I think it's going to be, because it's a division game, and I always say this with division games, they're always a little bit closer than we tend to expect for them to be, just based on the team talent. And I could see this game being a little bit more like grit and grind, but we will find out. You're still starting, I think, all of your Bengals and feeling pretty good about them. I actually have T. Higgins as my wide receiver 10, Jamar Chase as my wide receiver 12 on the week. So that's two wide receiver ones. It's really hard to choose between those two guys at this point in the season, though, especially with how Jamar Chase has dipped a little bit later in the season, and Higgins kind of filling in for that production.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. They're both they both have huge upside. They're on a team that likes to pass, has a very functional quarterback in Joe Burrow, a great running back in Joe Mixon to help alleviate the pressure for him. So these guys are in a good position to succeed. Against Baltimore, though, I do have to downgrade them a little bit just because if Lamar's out, the game, I think their offense struggles already. And if Tyler Huntley is now out, their offense is going to struggle even more. So I don't think they're going to need the wide receiver weapons all that much. So I'm with you. I think it's going to be a nice Joe Mixon game for sure.
Another wide receiver I want to talk about because I was surprised at how low I had him in my rankings. A guy that, once again, I used to have, I wouldn't say a love affair with, but I did like him a good amount, more than your average bird or wide receiver, however you would want to phrase it. Terry McLaurin came in at number 20 on my ranks for this week at Dallas. He did have the concussion in the Dallas game, but he also went zero receptions on 3 targets, 0 points. He hasn't gotten you double digits since week 11 and has only got you double digits what? Let me get into full point PPR here, but like I want to say 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Less than half of the weeks.
Yeah, Scary Terry. No, he is I mean, it's been since week 11 at Carolina. So Seahawks, Raiders, they already played Dallas and Philly. So teams that aren't great, but neither is Washington. So like you expect him to get the ball. Not ideal. Obviously, last time they played, he put up a goose egg. I suspect he's going to not have a goose egg this time. I just also don't think he's going to get a robust amount of fantasy value this week. I think he's going to get, if he gets 10 points, it's because he got a touchdown. Like, I think he's not the best option just because of how sluggish and rough he's been in the last 4 weeks here. And he's played this team already. So that's usually a decent indicator of how they're going to perform again. If the quarterback O-line is kind of the same.
Yeah, yes. I mean, 7 games in full point PPR over 10 points. 2 of those were 10.2. So not necessarily the production that you're even looking for. That's not even going to get you 10 points in other formats. So definitely not the kind of day or the kind of guy that we hoped, or I certainly hoped, coming into this season. Looking around the league, running back was a little bit tougher, I would say, to grade, especially for guys playing Sunday, because there's really only one of the, I would say, superstar running backs coming in this week with no questions. Obviously, Joe Mixon has the injury questions coming in. He is healthy. He's expected to play.
Mm-hmm.
But I am a little bit worried, just like I said, that divisional matchup as well. So Alvin Kamara is really the only like guy, I would say, in here. And I know that you have a stout disagreement with me as far as Alvin Kamara's value. But if you look at everyone else here, you look at James Robinson, who I have 2, Cordell Patterson, who I have 3, David Montgomery, who hasn't had the best of weeks, but he plays Seattle this week at 4, and Madison at 5, and then Mixon, Najee playing Kansas City. So, like, I feel okay. Even Kamara, I don't think he has the greatest matchup.
Right.
Or quarterback situation with Ian Book back there. We don't really know what to expect of him.
We've never seen an Ian Book Kamara situation.
We've never seen Ian Book in the NFL.
Exactly. Which would help keep the situation crazy. Interesting side note here. Miami's run or points to the running back position. Points to the running back position is better than Tampa Bay's. Miami's is 7th. Tampa Bay's is 12th. So if you thought Tampa Bay was a rough one, but 5 points, maybe chip off another point or 2 for the great stout run defense that is the Dolphins.
Are we going to make a gamble in which I would say Alvin Kamara scores more than he did against Tampa Bay last week?
I think he might, just because I don't know what Ian Book looks like. I don't know if Ian Book – the reason I'm down on Kamara with Taysom Hill is because we have a track record of seeing Taysom Hill run the football, not hit Kamara as often as other quarterbacks have, i.e. Drew Brees, Jameis Winston. We haven't seen, like, Taysom Hill enjoys the physical side of football. We just haven't, I don't know what this third string guy is going to do. He might get overwhelmed and just be like, coach, let me hand the ball to Kamara like 15 times in a row so I'd stop getting hit because this whole line's awful. We don't really know.
How is their O-line awful?
Well, I mean, if you don't buy an O-lineman a gift for Christmas, they're going to be pretty salty. And I don't think that Ian Brook bought them all, Rolexes, so they might be salty. I'm not, any
I
shade.
don't know if that makes them awful.
Well, I
That
mean,
just makes them
well, if they don't block for you, everyone's going to be like, oh, they're all
kind of like
terrible.
full of hate.
I don't know if hate. I just think like it's a business decision. Like if you don't step in front of a car to get a basketball during a game, it's a business decision. Because not like you don't hate basketball. It's just like you don't get paid enough to get hit by a car. Like similar situation here.
I guess I'm more defending the offensive lineman, saying it's not their fault that Ian Book didn't buy them a gift.
I think it is. I mean, Ian
What?
Brook, yeah, I mean, he knew he was going to play football at some point in his career. He might as well start.
Yeah, wouldn't that be his fault then and not the offensive lineman's fault? I don't think you
Exactly.
can call the offensive lineman terrible.
No. I think they're not going to block for him.
So that's
he
fine.
did something right. I don't think they're terrible. They've been, pretty good. I'm saying that they're going to look terrible this game if you didn't buy them a gift. If it is Christmas, it's like, hey, I'm going to protect you instead of spend time with my family. And the least you can do is buy me like a pair of Uggs or something. Yeah, I mean, Miami's defense is a little bit tougher, but I don't know how much. I just haven't seen it. I just haven't seen the quarterback situation with this guy before, so I don't know how to judge it. I don't know. I'm hoping for the best, but Miami, I think it's going to be a pass-happy game on both sides. I think both defenses are good against the run. I mean, New Orleans is better, but Miami's no slouch as of late either. So,
yeah, New Orleans also pretty good against the pass, I believe. I think that it's going to be a Kamara game just because, again, who else do they give the ball to? Now, last week, you can make the argument they gave the ball or tried to give the ball to other people. I don't think that they make that mistake again. I don't know that Ian Book helps or hurts, but I just tend to believe in guys that have produced in the past, regardless of the circumstance.
right.
And I think we both know that we're pretty split on that decision. I obviously have a belief that Kamara is the back that I feel the most confident in going into this week, I suppose.
This week, I think. I mean, I'm kind of leaning Najee.
This Sunday. Najee.
I mean, Kamara plays Monday. Najee plays Sunday. I like Najee in terms of like a set starter. I like Joe Mixon too. And then James Robinson, Montgomery, Patterson. Those guys I like. A little bit lower on Zeke. But I mean, I have been that way all year just because of how Pollard is the more explosive guy back there. But yeah, I think Najee would be above Kamara for me, even though I haven't seen the quarterback situation and if he's going to be like a Taysom Hill-esque and just run the ball, but I don't think he will be. We probably would have seen him out there before this if he was. So I just think Najee has an easier matchup too.
See, I'm kind of the opposite with Kansas City. I'm a little bit more worried about the matchup, and I think it comes in with something that Kansas City's actually not been that great against the running backs on the season. But that defense just has looked certainly better over the last few weeks. I am a little bit worried of that, and I think that Najee obviously has other liabilities around him, that offensive line being probably the biggest. And we've kind of seen that dip his production a little bit. I do think that he's going to get in the end zone. I mean, he's still a top 10 running back for me. He's top 7 running back for me. But but that's the thing that has him a little bit lower.
Mhm.
I would say if I was going to go like by tier, he would probably be in that like second tier, but I don't think I could make a strong argument that I would feel much worse about him than Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I mean, Najee's just playing Kansas City. I think Kansas City, especially with Travis Kelce out, you have Tyreek Hill. And I mean, yes, Patty Mahomes like throws the ball to, like, literally, I think it was like 15 or 16 people on the season so far. But they get like one target. It's not a guy who is going to consume a huge target volume like Tyreek Hill will. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a slower game for them just because they're going to have to try to figure out how to get either Tyreek open or how to like free up one of these other guys. I just think Najee's going to be able to have a little bit of a field day with them just because their defense hasn't been the best. And I just feel like Najee has been the focal point of the team, kind of. I mean, Deontay Johnson has been great, but Najee, for a rookie, has really kind of hoisted the load and done pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly haven't shorted him on touches much.
No.
That's very very evident, but I obviously love Najee. That's been a theme throughout the year.
Right.
Is that I have never loved anyone nor anything more than that man.
Amen.
It's just get the guy some help up front because it would be awesome if the Steelers just made a whole investment on that offensive line next year.
Mhm.
And Najee, probably his value in fantasy football going into next season isn't going to change because of the lack of offensive line he has around him. And with a little bit of help, if he was in a situation like a Nick Chubb or a Jonathan Taylor, I think he would be a Nick Chubb or a Jonathan Taylor of fantasy football.
Right. I mean, Najee Harris has a lot of talent, so that's just why I kind of like him going forward this week.
What about another guy on that Kansas City offense? You mentioned Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce is going to be out, Tyreek Hill in, but targets expected to have to be picked up by other players for what Travis Kelce is going to, the whole Travis Kelce is going to lead.
Exactly.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is an interesting name that I think is going to be probably in lineups, but I would say more on the fringe than most. If you had like a CEH or a Michael Carter situation, I don't know what direction you would choose to go.
It's tough. I mean, CEH has 3 games underneath 10 fantasy points in full point PPR. He is a touchdown guy. Like, he needs touchdowns to be insanely relevant. I can see him getting a bolstered workload this week. Just, I mean, obviously Travis Kelce's out, huge blow to the team in general. I can see CEH being out there as a wide receiver. I think he played wide receiver in college too. So I mean, like, it wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world. Josh Gordon, though, that was who I was going to ask you about. What are your thoughts on the speed dragster himself?
He didn't make my top 32 wide receivers.
Well, that just seems like you're a little bit biased against a guy who just is a little bit green in the gills. Okay, I'm not.
What's your take on Josh Gordon? The people
I
need to
don't
hear
know
it.
why. I just have this really weird feeling he's gonna score, and I don't know why. I just am like, Travis Kelce's out. Patty Mahomes is tired of his brother just doing TikTok dances. People are only talking about whatever the other Mahomes' name is, whatever his name is. Patty's like, you know what? Will really get me sparked up, charged up, ready to huff and puff all the way to the end zone here is a little pass of the Flash himself and Josh Gordon. As is, kind of where my hopes and dreams are at right now. Because everyone's going to be focused on Tyreek. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, Tyreek. If we just stop this one guy, we stop their offense. And Josh Gordon's going to be like one-on-one situation. I've been running my whole life. Ain't no one going to stop me. Underdog mentality. Kind of like the Colts.
This is the real comeback game for Josh Gordon. Okay.
If there's a game, it might as well be when the guy who has over 100 targets on the season is not going to play.
Might as well be in the fantasy playoffs as well.
Exactly. I mean, Travis Kelce has 122 targets on the year. They have to go somewhere. All 122 of them to Josh Gordon this game. You heard it here first.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds. I think you got to play Josh Gordon.
I think you played Josh Gordon over Marquise Brown. It's kind of where my head's at. Yeah.
How high up can we go? I'll go. So Hollywood, DJ Moore. You're playing him over DJ Moore.
Obviously over DJ.
DK.
Yeah, got to be over DK.
Your own Adam Thielen, who's coming back today.
No. Can't do it over Adam just because he's a Minnesota guy, but we'll probably go over above him anyway.
Renfro?
Oh, God.
Yeah, this is where it gets difficult.
Yeah, Adam Thielen was already rough, but Renfro could also be a really tough one.
So he slots in at wide receiver 15. That's fine.
Yeah, I put him right there too.
Josh Gordon. Another guy that I think is a sleeper this week is Courtland Sutton. Coming off
little Denver guy, okay.
That's always a risk, but coming off a game where obviously the Teddy injury happens, Teddy ruled out early in the week. You look back to Courtland Sutton's, his rookie year when he went off. Drew Lock was throwing him the football. He had 7 targets in this last game, only 2 catches for 12 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, I have him as my wide receiver 28. And again,
so you're obviously madly in love with him.
Ruling out everybody that already played. But I do think he is kind of a guy that might even be available in some leagues. He's only rostered in 68.1% of leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a pretty good feeling about this week. Mm-hmm. Now, my good feelings don't match your good feelings, but that's why Courtland Sutton's at wide receiver 28 and Josh Gordon's at wide receiver 15.
Exactly. I mean, hey, it is what it is. Can't help it. I don't hate Courtland Sutton this week. It's just that he's rostered in so many leagues, like almost 70%, that the availability factor was kind of lowered it.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Drew Lock there, yeah, it's going to be helpful. I mean, quarterback play, I don't think it's talked about enough in fantasy football of some quarterbacks do certain things really well to other wide receivers or other running backs, and other quarterbacks in the same system on the same team do not utilize or overutilize potential. And I think that Drew Lock and Courtland Sutton do have a little special something here. Kind of like what we saw earlier on in the season, blanking on the name, but with
is their team?
The Jets.
Mike White.
Yeah, Mike White with who's the wide receiver? I forgot the name. He's injured now. It was Elijah either Crowd. Moore. It was either Moore.
Anybody other than Zach Wilson,
right?
And Elijah Moore.
Right, Elijah Moore. But I mean, it's kind of like that. I don't know. I just certain wide receivers and quarterback combos work, and I think Courtland Sutton and Drew Lock that's an interesting one. We have seen track record of them being good before, so I like it.
And I very notably, when Denver drafted Drew Lock, said that Drew Lock would win multiple Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
So that's got to start soon.
It has to start sometime. Or what he could do is just wait till he's 70 and be a coach, and then win back-to-back rings with Tom Brady's son.
He's the son of a coach, so that
makes sense.
Possible.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible in life. Yeah, father like son.
Holy Spirit.
John 3:16.
We just brought it full circle. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas.
If you don't celebrate Christmas, I'm sorry that you had the day off yesterday. Should have went to work then.
Another person that, I mean, they're rostered in a bunch of leagues, but after what was probably more of a disappointing stretch for them. I think a player that could return to prosperity, possibly, is Darnell Mooney. He does get Nick Foles in at quarterback. You're going to have less of the quarterback runs, obviously, with Nick Foles back there. So I think that there is going to be more of a passing opportunity and more opportunity for Darnell Mooney, who seems to be, along with Cole Kmet, really the featured receiving weapons in this group. Although, and Allen Robinson's out. So
Yeah,
never mind.
A-Rob's
I was gonna say, although is Allen Robinson out because Nick
A-Rob's
Foles
out. Yeah.
did have a great connection with him before, but no Allen Robinson. I think it's gonna be a really big Mooney game, or it's gonna be a really big Kmet game.
I could see both. A banged up Chicago versus Seattle could be a good game. Seattle's struggled so much this year. I like it. Dave Montgomery has to be really high. He's really high on my list for the week.
Running back 4 for me.
Yeah, he'd have to be top 5 going into the week before all the games that even happened. I mean, he had to be up there just because it's Seattle, which is almost dead last or 31st in terms of points to running back. A third-string quarterback back there. Granted, Super Bowl winning quarterback back there, but still a third-string quarterback nonetheless. Dave Montgomery's no slouch. He gets last 3 games, he's gotten at least 6 targets out the backfield, so that's going to help him. I mean, 6 catches out the backfield, even for no yards, is still 6 points. So, yeah, Darnell Mooney, Dave Montgomery, Cole Kmet, all loves this week for me. Cole Kmet is another tight end I should have mentioned, but I just don't know. Like, I could either be so right that Cole Kmet just goes off for like 5 or 6 targets and a touchdown, or Cole Kmet never sees any balls thrown his way, and it's just Jimmy Graham who catches every single ball for him.
Yeah, every time I've made a call on Cole Kmet has been an awful week. I have him as my tight end 8.
Oh, so you cursed the poor man. That just
really, I mean, I don't have him ahead of anybody that's really been lighting it up all the time. It's crazy that Rob Gronkowski was my number 1 tight end this week. That blew my mind.
We're back to 2015 here, I see.
But I really don't think you can put anyone else ahead unless you think Mark Andrews with third-string quarterback. I mean, you can still make the argument it's Mark Andrews, and with a backup, he had an unreal game last game. But I also think that that's in part of why I put Mark Andrews lower. There's certain guys, it might not be completely like logical, but if you're thinking this guy just put up 40 points this week, he's probably not going to have a 40-point game again this week. That's part of the reason why I put Mark Andrews lower, and all the injuries to the Tampa Bay pass catchers as well. Speaking of those, that's one reason why I have Antonio Brown as my wide receiver 5 on the week, which is a lot higher than most people. But who else are they going to throw the ball to? This Carolina defense has certainly not been as great as expected. I think Gilmore has still been pretty good. But we've seen them fall off offensively, and I don't think that Tom Brady has another dud. I think that they're going to move the ball pretty effectively and get a solid win. So that's kind of where Antonio Brown and Gronk being weapons here, I think, really come into play.
I have to agree with you. I mean, we kind of talked about earlier on in the season, Brady's going for numbers this year. And to get shut out like that and to see him just smashing so many, tablets that Santa worked so hard to make all year on the sideline was not a good sight. And I don't think he's going to do that again in the spirit of Christmas. Antonio Brown, 4 touchdowns on the year through the 5 games he's played. Only 1 game underneath 13 fantasy points. So really strong option. No other weapons there. I like it. I mean, I can't hate on it too much. Carolina's defense has kind of been slipping a little bit because their offense hasn't been able to really do anything in the past couple games. So I like it. I'm with you. I mean, Gronk, Brent, AB. I have a hope for Ronald Jones, but at the same time, I feel really bad for him because I think he's going to touch the ball 3 times, and it's going to be to like hand the ball to Tom, and that's it. And that's it.
Yeah, Ronald Jones getting a lot of love in a lot of rankings that I've seen as a top 12 running back or like an RB1, even a top 10 as far as Fantasy Pros ECR.
Mm-hmm.
I have him just outside at 13. I think he's going to be like a solid play because of how much they use the running back in the passing game, but I don't see putting him ahead of some other guys, most of which I think are pretty logical, and then other guys that I may be bullish on and you may be upset with. I'd say one of those guys is in this list, but I would say the rest are pretty solid.
Ronald Jones is running for like 4.7 yards a carry or something on the season. 71 attempts, 337 yards, 3 touchdowns. The poor guy was just behind Leonard Fournette in a pass-happy offense going for numbers. So that's his only downfall, really. I mean, if you get a guy on a team that's running for 4.7 yards a carry, you're happy. You love the guy. The only sad part is he has to run for 100 yards. Otherwise, he doesn't get a touchdown just based off the numbers. He has to run for another 63 yards this game before he gets a touchdown. So I like him. I'm just really worried for him because I have a gut feeling that Tom Brady's going to be in such a bad mood just because the Christmas season. Tom does enjoy just being a Grinch around this time of year, just crushing kids' hopes and dreams of seeing their favorite teams go to the Super Bowl. That he's going to just crush my hopes and dreams for Ronald Jones and throw for 500 yards and break a record. Aaron Rodgers broke a record last night. I don't think we talked about that yet. Broke the Packers quarterback record for touchdowns thrown. So obviously that's going to just fuel Brady even more because of the personal hatred he has for anyone else receiving accommodations from the league besides him. So that's what worries me for Ronald Jones. Love the guy, just scared for him. Terrified, actually.
Did you have anything that you wanted to say about Aaron Rodgers breaking the Packers all-time passing touchdown record?
Just congratulations. I mean, good job, Aaron. He deserves it,
He did pass for all of them.
He did throw every single ball, which I guess counts, right? I mean,
yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, and it was like 400 something, 443, I believe, right? So he beat my Browns, which I wasn't super thrilled about, but he didn't really beat us. Baker threw 4 interceptions that game, so
all the talk on the town this week is going to be bad news for Baker. And some people on the show may be here for it. Some people on the show may participate in it.
I mean, rightfully so. To throw the shade at Baker.
No, I posted something that was very much in defensive Baker Mayfield on Twitter.
I don't have a Twitter, so please enlighten me.
I made an apology. Because apparently while I don't know if I can pull it up, but apparently while in Christmas Eve Mass with my family, I accidentally and unknowingly liked a tweet. Never intended to do so, and remain a huge believer in Baker. Merry Christmas to everyone. So I just wanted to get out in front of that in case anyone noticed. The tweet that I liked, or that got passed around to everybody.
Right. That game was so rough.
It was.
It was not a good game. I full disclosure, one of my leagues have Green Bay's defense. So I was like, I was hoping for something like this, but to see 4 interceptions from your quarterback was always a little discouraging. I was hoping for like some fumbles from some wide receivers, maybe a tight end or two. Um, just something else than Baker single-handedly giving me 8 fantasy points on a silver platter. You never like to see your quarterback struggle that mightily. But hey, thank goodness he probably won't be the quarterback for long. I believe Tom Brady said he wants to go play in Cleveland, just win a championship in every city before he retires. So 2 down, 30 to go.
Another guy that we didn't talk about when we talked about the Tampa Bay, Tom Brady being upset about Aaron Rodgers, and that's why he's going to have a solid game today, is the Panthers offense and the Panthers side of things. I only bring this up because some people might have said, hey, I have to start Cam Newton this week. Going into this week, I had Cam Newton as my quarterback 12 among guys who haven't played so far. And I'd probably move that down. I'd probably move that down very far. So he'd probably be behind, like, I think when he comes into the conversation would be Mac Jones, Davis Mills. And that's being pretty generous. Like, not because of necessarily what we expect from Cam. Cam, I believe, has a rushing touchdown every game that he has played so far this year. But Sam Darnold is expected to play a substantial amount for the Panthers, and they say that he could retake the starting job for the rest of the season. They didn't say that he was going to start. I think they said that Cam is going to start. So I have no idea what to expect there.
Yeah, it says Darnold's expected to enter the game within a few series to relieve Cam. So
what's the point? What's the point of starting Cam?
I think in my mind, I want to convince myself it's Carolina's way of telling Cam to either go out there and score 3 straight drives and look flawless, or we're going to start you for someone smaller and less athletic than you. And I think that's just going to dig at Cam on a personal note, just because based off all of the stuff he's ever said, it's never been nice about Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold, though, important to note, does have more rushing yards, or more rushing touchdowns than Cam Newton on the year. He might also have more rushing yards. I'm not positive of that stat.
I think he could. Definitely could.
So, really the same kind of profile of guy, Cam Newton, Sam Darnold. Chargers D versus the Texans, or Dolphins D versus the Saints?
Give me Chargers. I mean, Brandon Cooks is out, so the game's going to be a wash. Hate to say it, Chargers. If the Chargers lose this game, it would be such a shock. Chargers D all day.
Yeah, I'm going Chargers. Just think that there are, I guess, less dependable pieces. Like, both offenses are not very good, but one offense is led by Sean Payton, who is very good and has Alvin Kamara. That's more than the Houston Texans have, especially with Brandon Cooks out. So I would still go the Chargers defense.
I'm with you.
Lockett, Devontae Parker, or DJ Moore?
That's a tough one.
You want me to go?
I will let you go first. I'm still trying to think.
I have Lockett at 11. I had DJ Moore at 16. I might even downgrade that a bit just with hamstring injury. I'm a little bit worried.
Mhm.
And also not knowing who the quarterback is does hurt.
That does hurt a little bit.
We saw how much DJ Moore kind of struggled with Sam and without McCaffrey. So, especially like later in the stretch of games
Yeah.
before Sam was out. So, that's not the most convincing thing. I have Devontae Parker at wide receiver 21. I think that the choice between Devontae Parker and DJ Moore is a lot tougher one than the choice between Lockett and either of those guys. So I'd probably go Lockett.
I do not have the love for Lockett just because they're playing Chicago. It could be a good game.
They looked good in the secondary last week, and they had a bunch of guys out.
Yeah, but you know how the NFL is. Someone does really good, and then they take them out and put the starter back in, and then they suck. So
I agree. I mean, I still chose Lockett.
Yeah. I have to go Lockett barely, but I think Parker could make a better choice than DJ Moore. For me, it's Lockett or DP. I mean, Devontae's playing New Orleans. I think it's going to be New Orleans is good against the run. They're really soft against the pass in terms of fantasy points given to each guy. So that's just why I kind of have high hopes for Devontae Parker, just because I think the run game might get stuffed for a little bit. That will free Devontae up, and then once they stop Devontae, the run game's going to come back. It's going to be a little balancing act, but I think Devontae Parker being the number one guy back there is going to be a good one for his Lockett fighting for being a number two, you know?
Well, that's something we got to talk about. Speaking of DP, there's two guys in Miami that are going to try to be penetrating the hole in the backfield, and that is Duke Johnson and Myles Gaskin. There might even be more than that.
Probably at least 7 or 8.
That's a lot. It's a lot of guys.
It's a lot, but you know, I'm starting Gaskin. He let me down for the past, 3 weeks. One was a bye week, so I was heavily disappointed me. But he had 2 games where he got above 10 points. Then he had 2 games where he's underneath 10 points. So obviously, New Orleans, you need to have a game above 10 points. So I'm just going to keep riding the wave. If I lose, I lose. But hey, I'd rather lose with my man than, survive with a hooker. Just don't want to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suppose so. That's your choice.
Yeah, loyalty runs deep for me.
Yeah, I think one of the real problems for Gaskin of late is just maybe something that when our show did run 4 days a week, one of our bold predictions was that you said Myles Gaskin was going to break the curse and score over 10 points. And since he did and had an 18.2 week, he hasn't gotten double digits since. So that's, I think, really kind of messed up what we have come to expect from Myles Gaskin and the predictability of him. So that could be the main issue here.
It could be an issue, but Myles Gaskin, great guy on and off the field. Carries groceries for old ladies, rescues cats from trees, fights fires, stops crime. Basically, the epitome of a great man.
I've also heard that he fights crime and stops fires.
Yes, he does do that too. The 2 games that he's stumbled, quote unquote, was against the Giants and the Jets. Now, everyone in the league is a bully to the Giants and the Jets because they're god awful. But Myles Gaskin said, hey guys, I'm going to take it easy on you because I have a heart. But New Orleans is going out there trying to bully people. So that's when Myles Gaskin has to step up and say, hey, listen, I'm the big man in the locker room here. Stop picking on my friends. So,
Brandon tuning in. Thank you, Brandon. Start 2, Miles Sanders, Barkley, Justin Jackson, semifinals week. Yes, it is. I am going to go Miles Sanders and Saquon Barkley. Both guys are inside my top 10. Saquon is at 9. Miles Sanders is at 10 for me. I don't think that really matters. I think that you can flip-flop those guys. Justin Jackson, I just think there's a little bit of concern with he's going to be the lead guy, and it's
Right.
going to be Houston, and I don't think he's a bad play whatsoever. I think he would kind of be in my mid-teens, probably reevaluating a little bit. He was at 19 when I originally made this. I think that I would bump him up over a Sony Michel and over maybe a Melvin Gordon. But I just feel better about the guys that I kind of know are going to get the touches. And guys that I know I think are more talented as well, just naturally. Like they're starters in their own backfield for a reason. Not to take anything away from Justin Jackson, because I think that he is going to have a solid week this week. But I would rather bank on the guys that are the week in and week out starters and the guys that I'm not worried if another running back is going to like take their touches away. Because if Justin Jackson gets off to a bad start, it could very well switch up and they could go with the hot hand.
I have to have Justin Jackson in there at one of those two, just because you're playing Houston. Houston has no one. It's not going to be a close game. You're going to give the ball to the running back. The running back's going to get a bunch of garbage time touches. I can't say that for Philly and the Giants is because they're both playing each other. Like one of these guys is going to have to either be catching a bunch of balls or the game's going to have to be just insanely close. And so give me Justin Jackson. He's playing the easier team. He's going to have the best O-line, I think we can agree, is that Chargers have the better O-line than the Giants for sure. Philly potential could be close, but I think Chargers have a better O-line. And they're playing the worst defense. So give me Justin Jackson. Miles Sanders and Saquon's close. I mean, Miles Sanders has 2 solid weeks with no touchdowns. So that's just kind of where the upside of him is.
He's going to have to score one eventually.
He's going to have to score one eventually. So I'm going to go Miles Sanders and Justin Jackson and leave Barkley out, which kind of disgusts me a little bit. But if you like watching Barkley play, I mean, it's not so much his fault, but he's like, not 100% by a long shot. He has the worst O-line. And who else is there to really focus on when all their pass catchers are always injured? So give me Miles Sanders and Justin Jackson. I think they're going to have the better weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame you for that.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that this Houston game is going to be maybe a little closer than expected, just with all of the COVID issues that the Chargers have as far as 2 of their big 3 weapons in the pass game or the rush game being out. But obviously the Chargers are the better team regardless. Madison or Justin Jackson? I'm going Madison pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
He's just the guy. There's no worry about splitting touches whatsoever. There's no worry whatsoever. Yeah. We got a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Hope everyone got everything. What was did you get a favorite gift this year?
I got $200 and then I got my hospital bills paid over the summer, and that's what I got.
I don't think you can beat that. Yeah.
So I mean, I'd have to pick between 2, and if I was picking between 2, I'd kind of feel bad for the one that I didn't pick.
Exactly. I feel that. I get a cool rug.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the rug. It's way cooler than a hospital visit just because I can eat like good food on this rug instead of hospital food. So, not to rub it in or anything.
I can't wait to roll around on your rug.
I cannot wait for you to come over and roll around on the rug either. We also got a table. We have a table now. Well, not now, but it's going to come here soon when we get a truck to come bring it out to us. We have a table finally, so we have, dinner. I think those are my 2 favorite gifts.
When is the TV stand coming?
I'm not really into the whole materialistic TV stand. I'm more into like DIY, do it yourself. Give me some car tires and a TV box and put the TV on there. Honestly, I feel like it'd be weird if I looked over and I saw like either nothing because it was on the wall or like something professional. I'd probably like lose my brain for a second and be like, what is going on? Whose house am I in? Like, where am I? Because it just wouldn't scream like homeless, which is kind of the look I strive for in the comfort of my own home.
Fair enough. That's our show,
Mhm.
I believe.
It was a good show.
Unless there are any last minute questions in, we will be back on Tuesday to talk waivers, hopefully happening on time this week, to talk other fantasy football stuff. It's championship week that we will be going into. Hopefully, you all had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we can cap off the week with a big dub. That
Big dubs
would be the best gift of all.
That's true. Unless you get a cool rug. Yeah,
or a cool rug as a consolation. That is it for us. We will see you all on Tuesday.